I'm proud of you guys. You made it to the last video of the course. I hope that everything that you've learned up until now is going to make a huge impact on your business. It's going to really put you in the direction that you want to go. But in this little wrap-up section, we're just going to be going over a few things. One is going over some of the images that we shot today. Next, how to work with clients who feel a little awkward during the shoot. Every once in a while I get somebody like that, kind of how to work through that. Now, Sandy is in incredible shape. She was nice enough to come model for us. Not every client that I shoot and not every client you shoot will be as in shape as her. So we talk a little bit about curvy women and how to approach that. Then we're gonna talk about how much you should use Photoshop in your business, how that matches up with your brand, and how to respond to a client who wants a lot of Photoshop. And lastly, we're gonna wrap up with what happens after you're done taking pictures. What's the rest of the experience look like? So with that, enjoy this last video of the course, enjoy the PDF, and really get out there, start shooting, make your business happen. So yeah, okay, so
my shirt back with that hand.
right. So again, with outfits like this, they're amazing. I love them. Crop tops, as you stand up, they kind of show a little bit more of the midriff. You're gonna play around with them a little bit more. The idea that they're just kind of hanging is really sexy, but sometimes in this, they like totally take away from a person's shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like
So,
frumpy.
what's that?
Frumpy.
Frumpy. I hate that word. A little bit. So the way to correct that is by continuing to play or pull or whatever it is. You can change the angle, but really, like the same way you see like a mannequin like clip something or you don't see mannequins clip things. The same way that they will clip outfits on mannequins on the back to make them actually fit. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what it is that we're doing there. So keep scrolling.
Oh,
Right?
there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you pulled it across.
And then even
Now
more
it's back. Yeah. So now it's got the shape.
So I can still see her hand there. Would you have her? It doesn't matter. Just
Totally
as long as
fine.
it's shaping.
We're not saying like don't show her hand. We're just giving her hand an excuse of something to do so that it more flatters her shape.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing like that Michael does say a lot, like when I'm chin up, eyes down, because my eyes like
wanna go up.
want to go. So that's a good reminder, even if like you're an experienced model or not. 'Cause sometimes you need that reminder.
Chin up, eyes down.
Yeah, because like I want to like look up, but I'm like, what am I looking at? But this is
Yeah.
like, and it might feel weird, so the model will be like, I'm not sure if that looks good. But once you show them a picture and you reassure them,
Yeah,
then she'll like listen to that for the rest of the shoot.
So something that I tell everybody is there's a saying we have in photography, it feels weird, looks good. So just trust that whatever angle I'm looking at you from, like I'm looking at every single piece. And so if you're doing something that maybe feels a little bit unnatural, know that from my angle, it does look natural, it does look good. So if something feels a little strange, know that I'm putting you in that position for a reason. So feels weird, looks good. So I'll say that, they get a little bit more trust. I take the picture and I show them and they're like, okay, that's not how I felt at all, cool. Again, it relaxes them. And the more confident that somebody becomes, the more they see it and they start to believe, oh, these pictures are gonna be good. Oh, I felt weird, but like that one looked good. Then their face starts to represent that. Then their face goes from, does this look sexy, to, I feel sexy. Totally. And when that happens, the whole rest of the shoot becomes way easier. Their poses, they're hitting their poses. They're not like, am I doing this right? They're doing it. Because I can pose somebody, pretty much any body type, shape, age, for all of the women that I've shot, and put them into like really flattering, sexy positions, poses, but if their face says, am I doing it? Mm-hmm. Then the whole rest of the picture, then that's when you start to do a whole lot where they're like pointing their head the other way, maybe you've got a lot of their hair blocking their face, or maybe doing some tight close-ups or only details on their lips or their hands or something like that. So every once in a while I'll have a shoot where somebody's like really struggling with the expressions and they're, it doesn't seem like they have, I haven't built the trust yet that they know their pictures are going to be good because they're still so nervous. So I'll do these really more close-up shots of their lips, of their ring, the arch of the back, kind of whatever it is that doesn't include their face. And then from there, it kind of snowballs. It builds and builds and builds from there.
How do you deal with clients? So obviously she's like super fit, but someone who is like
More curvy or
just more curvy or it doesn't feel confident with themselves. They have some rolls, you know. Like I mean, I'm decently fit, but I have rolls, and I would feel totally uncomfortable like moving around. So like, how would you manage those clients?
So the first thing is you have to know that clients know what they look like. So when they come in, they have an idea. You know, their expectations are, I would say, you know, they have expectations of what their pictures are going to look like, which is usually not as high as the pictures actually turn out. That's just true of anyone. I've had clients that come in that are super curvy, much larger, and their pictures, you know, the look in their eyes, they rock that shoot. Whereas somebody could be super skinny or super fit and come in and feel like, oh, I wish I would have lost some extra weight. I haven't really been to the gym lately. This isn't, you know, my hair is at whatever.
More critical.
Like I haven't, whatever it is, they're more critical. Ooh, I feel really bloated this morning. You know, whatever it is. So it doesn't really matter what they look like. It more matters how they feel about the way that they look. So I actually get a lot more gratification out of shooting somebody who's curvy, because what'll happen is if somebody is like, you're classically attractive, super in shape, has like super long legs, all their expressions are on point, you know, I don't really have to give them any instruction, my creativity shuts down. Because pretty much any pose that I put them in, they look pretty good. So for me, when I'm posing somebody and I take the first picture, I'm like, well, that looks pretty good. I guess I'll do the next thing. And so what happens is, instead of me pushing that pose and pushing that pose and pushing that pose until it's like, whoa, what a shot, it ends up being like a bunch of like pretty okay shots instead of you know, a few that like really glow. And so, you know, that's not something that's easier or harder. I mean, I would say on some level it's harder because you have to be more aware of the different poses and how that shapes your body. There are certain things that Sandy can do, and we don't have to worry about, you know, lifting her shirt up like she's about to take it off like this. She can do, her stomach looks really good. When the next girl, you might use the shirt kind of at an angle like this to show only a piece of it, to give that sense of you know, that line that you're showing is really thin, just for that section. You may do it depending on their arms. You know, you may sleeves or no sleeves. Women who are curvier typically don't look as good in like something like this. Usually full lingerie sets or corset or something like that. So the outfits are a little bit different. But bottom line is, clients, you know, when they come in, they're expecting to do a boudoir shoot. When they come in, they have an idea of what they look like, so they're not expecting you to make them look like something they're not. You just have to, you know, be conscious of, you know, if I sit down in a certain position, I had a client sitting down with her back up against this, and she's like, okay, I'm a little self-conscious about my stomach. You know, I kind of have rolls at the moment, and I sat down in that same way. I'm like, I've got like 2% body fat. Like, I have rolls too when I sit down like that. Like, that's something that humans have. I'm not putting you in this position to photograph your stomach. I'm doing it because of this, 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 and this, and I'm gonna put your legs here, and it's gonna look really amazing. You're gonna have this beautiful curve to this, and your legs are gonna look long, and take the picture, and here you go. Wow, that looks great. So it's building the trust that if they get into a position that they don't love about themselves, that they know that whatever angle you're shooting from is gonna be flattering.
Angles.
Well, how do you address like Photoshop and after editing? Because I'm sure some clients are like, can you get rid of this? And I know you're more, I think you're more just like a realistic approach, which is more my style too.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that and approach that in conversation?
So I do same day sales sessions. So I have an hour to cull through about 700 to 800 photos and get them down to about 70 pictures and go through and do a basic edit of all of them, export them, run skin smoothing, bring them into a separate Lightroom catalog, make a slideshow, export that slideshow, and have it ready for viewing downstairs. I do that all in an hour. So I don't have a whole lot of time for a whole bunch of Photoshop, for a whole bunch of editing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that a lot of my brand speaks to the idea that boudoir is about acceptance. So again, like your idea of why you're a people person, you enjoy making people feel good about themselves, like that's a good place to start. You're a romantic, you know, the relationship between two people that love each other and being able to show like one small element of that in the big grand scheme of things is something that's really special. You know, that can be a part of your why. For me, a lot of my why is like not letting women, pretty much everybody in general, but specifically women are really hard on themselves in that, you know, when you give them a compliment, they often brush it off. Wow, your hair looks really good today. Oh my gosh, I haven't showered in 3 days. Wow, that's a cute dress. Oh, I got it on sale from this old weird, you know, place. I haven't worn it in forever. You know, it's very hard for them to take compliments. So when you take a portrait of them that they really do love, they can't give themselves a hard time about it because it's not somebody giving them a compliment, it's them seeing themselves. So when it comes to Photoshop, I want that to be a realistic version of them. So liquify, I liquify maybe less than 2% of my images, maybe less than 1% of my images. The times at which I do it is if I put them in a pose that I know is gonna look amazing on like 99% of this, but that one area, it's just the nature of the way the body works, is gonna be, you know, I'll take care of something like that. Unless a client asks me, I don't want to take out stretch marks. Unless a client asks me specifically, I take out blemishes and I do like a basic skin smoothing. Everybody still has pores. But for me, I want them to look at that and see their stretch marks and be like, oh my God, like they look pretty in this picture. Like
Yeah.
I still do give myself such a hard time about it. But in this shot, like, I don't know, I don't mind them. I would 1,000 times rather that outcome than for them to say, ugh, my stretch marks, can you just get rid of those? Like, I've known 20-year-olds that have stretch marks. I've known, you know, like it's just the nature of
Skin.
just the
Yeah,
nature of
totally.
skin. Okay, so that's pretty much my spiel on Photoshop. And a lot of that is in my video. When they come watch my video, I say that I don't do a whole lot of editing. I want these pictures to look like you. You know, boudoir is about acceptance in the way that you're accepting your beauty more than it is we're creating this fairy tale version of a once in a lifetime, you know, maybe if you get your hair and makeup done and maybe you've got a perfect photographer and maybe if I Photoshop you, you'll like the way that you look, you know, more so I'm speaking to the idea that, you know, and even if a client, I had this one client who was like, I've got these stretch marks, like, what do you think? And I was like, I'll tell you what I think. I think you should leave them in, and I think they're awesome. They represent, like, you had a kid, like, that kid's amazing, you know, part of your, you know, and she was like, I knew you were gonna say that. Okay, leave them in. You know, so, you know, that goes back to your why. You know, what is it? I know some people that are like, when I was little, I wanted to look like all the women did in the magazine. And so now I create that for people. And so if that's your why, then like a lot of editing, a lot of Photoshop, and there's plenty of women out there, there's plenty of people out there who would pay for that kind of experience. But that's not the experience that I want to give.
Well, nothing worse than Photoshop that looks like Photoshop. You know,
Yeah,
like badly
exactly.
done Photoshop.
But even like the idea is that Photoshop that looks really good but is not an accurate representation of somebody is equally as damaging. I know somebody who went to get their pictures done and they got them back and I was like, whoa, this picture. And I talked to her afterwards. I was like, I saw you hired so-and-so. And she's like, yeah, I got them back. And honestly, like, I was like, they're amazing. You look amazing. She's like, yeah, but like, I know she did a lot of Photoshop. That's not actually how I feel like I look in real life. And so it honestly, it went from being like this empowering experience to kind of being the opposite of feeling like, well, I guess I needed Photoshop in order to look good. You know, if you wanted to post this picture, you first needed to Photoshop me in all these ways. So, you know, find your balance, whatever you're comfortable with. But, and it cuts down a bunch on editing time for me.
Absolutely.
There's also a big bonus. Yeah. Any other Any other questions?
You showed me a program that helped you to collate your images so you could look at them faster.
Yeah,
What was that one?
Photo Mechanic.
Photo Mechanic.
So if you're doing same day sales, Photo Mechanic is ultra fast. You can view and select the pictures as fast as it's importing. So whereas Lightroom, it takes a while to import and then it has to build standard previews, it doesn't have to do that. There's no editing, but it's ultra fast. So if you're not doing same day sales sessions, you don't need to worry about it. You just import to Lightroom, have it build standard previews, go grab a bite to eat and come back. But if you are doing same day sales, I import my photos, and as soon as I click import and that first photo pops up, I start to click through and favorite them as fast as I can go. I do like 700 to 800 photos in 15 minutes, and then bring them into Lightroom. Then Lightroom only has to churn through 80 previews instead of 800.
I need that because I shoot. You probably do too. I mean, shit.
A wedding.
A wedding.
Yeah, I was gonna
you
say
got
weddings.
like 4,000.
It's super fast.
Yeah.
If I have 2 shooters, I
Yeah.
usually 4,000.
It's easily. I went from doing ordering sessions and having them come back in an hour and a half to having them come back in an hour, and I have now 5 to 10 minutes to spare before they walk in.
So
So
what do you in that situation? Like you're done with the shoot, you start downloading and calling, and then what do you have them do? Do you just have them leave? You have them hang out downstairs, have a glass of wine? Like that's usually the
yeah,
wrap-up.
that's a super good question. So we finished the last photo. Yay, high fives. Whatever it is. Okay, go ahead and get dressed. We have an hour until your viewing session. There's a Starbucks across the street. There's a Thai food place if you like Dunkin' Donuts. The beach is a mile away, so you could do that, but you probably only get a half an hour down there. Whatever you want to do. So they go, whatever that time is. I run upstairs. I edit. I do all those things to get it ready for viewing, and then they come back. They watch a slideshow. And
all 80 or just a kind of a
yeah,
view? Okay.
of all 80, and I've got a song that plays to it. It's from Animoto, and that's really emotional. And then we click through one by one, each individual picture, choose their favorites. We'll design the album using Smart Albums. I'm just throwing out different companies. Using Smart Albums, this is another one that pretty much changed my life. Super quick to edit albums. So we'll do that, and then we're done. I can order the client's album that night. It's amazing. So whereas some people, they'll do a consult, and then they'll do the photo shoot, and then they'll do a sales session, and then they'll send the client a proofing album,
Yeah,
and then they'll do back and forth, all of that. Shoot day is one day. They come back and view their images. We design the album, and I have it ordered that night. Comes in, from Floricolor, a couple of 11 business days, whatever it is, and I'm done. And I'm done with everything I have to do with that client. And it's like,
Typically, how many hours are you looking at for a shoot like that?
so shoot day is about 5 hours from hair and makeup to when they walk out the door. So we're usually 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pre-consults are usually half an hour, either on the phone or in person or Skype. And then there's really no post work because they're seeing their images and everything. So it takes me 15 minutes to order an album. So five and a half. I don't know. Probably in total with emailing and everything, probably 7 hours to a client.
Has anyone came back like a year later and ordered another book?
Almost never.
Yeah.
Almost never.
But you still keep everything.
Yeah, I have. On occasion, I'll sell digitals later in the year, at the end of the year or something.
So you don't give them any copies of their prints digitally?
So whatever they buy in the album, they get digitally. So if they get those 18 photos in their 8x8 book, they also get those 18 photos digitally. It's included. Yeah. But yeah, so a lot of this. One of the reasons why I like Boudoir over weddings is that you're not booked a year in advance. You're not spending 10 hours, 12 hours on the wedding day. You don't have all this back and forth correspondence for a year, making these little adjustments. There's no timeline.
No Bridezilla.
Your time spent with the client is that. It's one-on-one. You do it. And then when they walk out the door, you can focus on the next client instead of having to go through and edit 800 pictures. I cull it down to 80 pictures, but you're changing white balance in different places, or you're outsourcing that, or You know, there is back and forth on the wedding album because there are so many pictures, and it's just like, you know, it's all very simple. It's all very direct, kind of all in one. All right.
Cool.
Very cool. Well, great. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Thanks, guys, so much for coming. Sandy, you crushed it.
Yay! I had a great time.
I'm
I
ex-
hope I helped you guys.
Oh, you did.
That'd be
Big time.
cool.
Yeah, perfect. So that pretty much wraps it up. There's a bunch more stuff in the PDF, but I feel really good about everything today. I hope you guys learned
Yeah, totally. Thank
lots
you.
and lots and lots.
Definitely.
But yeah, so just to recap, get out there. I want to see shoots from you guys in the next coming months, and I'm excited.